Hi everyone, I'm Amy. This is my partner Maggie.
Hello.
Together we are ThinkerThemer, and welcome to 2022 and our first episode of Back Chat.
We're back.
We're back.
Yeah.
But
Back to back.
We're back to backing.
Yeah.
But Kickstarter and GameFound are not exactly back. They are partially back. There are some...
They're warming up.
They're warming up.
The cogwheels are sort of starting to turn, and you're sort of hearing the creaking of the noises and the... But it's not in full.
Is that the creaking
steam.
of my wallet opening?
Yeah, as well. Like the wallet is just kind of like going...
I wish I could say that my wallet has been closed over the holidays, but I did a lot of Boxing Day sales, so...
Yeah, that's a different kind of... Yeah.
So it balances each other out. But the campaigns have started up again, and now there are a few that are kind of acting like the appetizers into... full campaign season.
Getting you back in the mood.
Yeah.
Of like, oh yeah, let's look at campaigns. Let's look at, what have you got to offer? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
but we don't have enough for this episode to do our usual top 10.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do instead is a top 5. We're just going to talk about some campaigns that interested us, and maybe that will help you get back into Kickstarter season as well.
Yeah.
But first, I actually have a resolution this year about backing. Which I haven't
let's
shared
hear
with
this.
you.
Okay.
So we did a special video called Backtrack where
Yes.
we covered, or we spoke about, reflected on all of the things that we backed last year in 2021, which was over 80 campaigns, which is a lot of campaigns.
Yes.
And what I didn't tell you at the time is that I had actually done a little bit of mental arithmetic around what on average one of those pledges would generally cost us.
Do I want to know this?
And then multiplying it out by 80 plus, and that results in quite a big figure.
I don't want to know this.
You don't want to know.
Okay.
And I buy all of our games, and Maggie though is a much more, I don't know, you're much better at saying no to these things.
I say no all the time.
Yeah, you
I'm
really
like,
do.
Nah, it's fine. We'll wait.
You
No,
really
that's
do.
fine. We'll
And
wait.
then like 5 minutes later, you're like, did we get that game?
I'm like, when is that coming?
Oh!
You're like, we didn't back. You said not
You
to back. I'm
told
like,
me
"Ah."
not. Anyway, let's not get into that. But this year, fiscally, I want to try and be a little bit more responsible in that, it does add up. And with the shipping crisis and like trying to get things to Australia, it means that sometimes, obviously it's really expensive, but sometimes the price is quite comparable or it's cheaper to get it at retail. And what I'm finding now is in retail, sometimes they get it at the same time because they're part of that campaign as well.
Yeah.
And I really want to start supporting these friendly local game stores a bit more as well. I like supporting the publishers with the going direct and Kickstarters, but we've seen a lot of store closures here in Melbourne, cafes as well, that have unfortunately not been able to survive the pandemic. And I, want to give back to these retailers who, really do a lot to create the board gaming community kind of on the ground, which is really nice. And I still love going into physical stores and being surrounded by games.
Anyway, it's one of the best feelings. I secretly always talk myself out of it for good reason, but I secretly always want to own or run a board game store, because it's just that being surrounded by all of those games, and that sort of shrink wrap smell. It's just
all the possibilities.
But as you were talking about that, and again, we're going to completely digress, and then we'll come back to the campaigns. But one of the things that I'm thinking is the more we start backing, or essentially buying Kickstarters from our local retailers, that's going to signal to the retailers to place bigger orders.
That's true.
Ideally,
For
it would
Kickstarter
mean
games.
for Kickstarter games. Ideally, it would mean if and I don't know if maybe there's something we can do, talk to some of our local gaming stores and go, hey, happy to almost pre-order with you, or somehow support or pre-fund so that they know how many more they can
You don't
order.
buy games, but a lot of them do that. So Maggie doesn't buy any games, so...
But because that would have been a good idea. Clearly, it's a good idea.
It is great. And they are very active and talking to the community about what Kickstarters are going to be available and that kind of thing. So we are going to do more of that. The other part of that is, of course, being a bit more aware of the environmental impact of all of these games traveling out all over the world. We want to minimize our footprint as much as possible, but also minimize purchasing as much as possible to not create excess wastage of games that we're really, not sure about. And so I want to be more... I think we already discriminate quite well, and we will continue to be very authentic in our opinions of campaigns. But
Absolutely.
please back responsibly and bear in mind that we have not played most of the games that we're talking about in this series. So sometimes we get quoted from this series and, that someone's buying it because we said X, Y, and Z. But remember, this is our opinions only,
but
not
it's
play
also
the game.
not even based on the actual gameplay. No. It's based on how excited we are, based on the anticipation we have, on the bits and pieces that we can see. So it's
piece together. A lot of the time we are trying to piece together the game as much as you are.
A lot of times we're making assumptions and drawing conclusions of, this wasn't necessarily communicated, but I get the feeling that it might work like this. It may be completely wrong. So this is where, please use your discretion when you're backing things. Just because we're excited about it doesn't mean that it's going to be a good game. A lot of times we kind of get a game and we're like, that's not the thing that I thought it would be. But that's part of the process.
That's part of the fun.
Sometimes it's even better. But that's the journey.
And, we are still really excited to be doing that chat. And I'm still super excited about campaign season. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into our top 5. And our number 5 is...
Okay, our number 5 is The Story Master's Tales, Threat Lore Town. So this is a bit of a different one.
So different.
So different because this is I believe both co-op and competitive, potentially, 1 to 5 player RPG. It's a hybrid between an RPG, which we never, ever, ever really do, RPG, board game, and game book, and sort of cards, all thrown into the mix. So I'll tell you why I started to get into this a little bit more. Obviously, as a themer, I'm discovering a lot more of my story, like my love for story and like rich thematic, narrative-led type games. This past holiday season, your brother facilitated, so Amy's brother facilitated an intro D&D scenario with us, and I had a great time.
It was our first time playing an RPG, and we really enjoyed ourselves. I had a great time as well.
There you go.
I'm not as into the genre as Maggie is, of course, because rolling dice and whatnot.
Well, knowing this, I'm sort of going, well, this is probably something that I'm going to have to explore. And I'm quite comfortable to explore things as a solo. And so it sort of led me down the path of like, well, what are some of the games in this area that I can explore solo? This caught my eye as we were doing our research through crowdfunded games. So this is based on like an 18th century Grimm's Brother dark fairy tale type thing or era scenery, where you are essentially making your way through, creating a character and making your way through all of these different adventures through the woodlands, encountering, magical creatures, and then coming up with different treasures. And so that sounds fairly stock standard and straightforward. The thing that attracted me to this is, one, the artwork. I am so attracted to the aesthetic of this artwork. It's obviously very black and white, kind of comic. I guess it's a very specific aesthetic, but it reminds me a lot of the kind of folklore or Mexican artwork that we fell in love with in Guanajuato when we went to visit a couple of years ago. And I just love it. And to one point, there was a map of the land, and I was like, Amy, look at this map. It just looks so cool. So the artwork in it is what really appealed to me first. And then I realized that they also have created, it's the person who's designed it runs I think it's like an RPG style theater. So the theatrics around it, they've actually recorded audio, like a narration for the different adventures and for the different quests. So it's got this beautiful ambience of the music and the this amazing voice sort of going, you walk through this place, you encounter this character, and then what do you do, and it gives you the options. So that's essentially what you're going to be doing. You're going to be encountering different or creating or finding your way through a map, which will be different every time you kind of play it, and then encountering all these different adventures and deciding what you're going to do, and obviously that'll shape the story. Fairly straightforward. It sounds like it's also like it's a family friendly intro thing, which is actually quite good for me at the moment, because it's like I'm really new to this.
Where you're at with your level.
Yeah, that's my level at the moment. So just, the combination of the artwork, the concept, the fact that it's kind of guiding you by the hand, and the audio recording. I'm like, I'm really intrigued by this.
And the story is actually part of a trilogy. So this Kickstarter, to get in on this Kickstarter, there's a limited edition kind of book and card option, I believe. It is relatively expensive, and so I've been encouraging Maggie to maybe get in on the first chapters, which are readily available on Amazon.
Yes.
To give it a go, dip your toes in the water, and I'm sure you'll be able to pick up this installment if you really do get into it.
But... So I think that's so this is not, we're not backing this at this stage, but it's something that it's definitely piqued my interest. I'm hungry for more in this area, and I'm gonna check out the older campaigns or the older domes or volumes to see if this is gonna be something that.
And if you're new to this series, we go through all campaigns every 2 weeks, the previous 2 weeks campaigns, and we rate them from 1 to 10, and we each do that individually. We average it out. That's how we get our ranking. So you would have seen some numbers flash up on the screen. I gave this one a 4. Maggie gave it a 7. Yeah. So you can see a huge discrepancy in our ratings of this particular game, but I'm excited to support Maggie. Do you know what? I'm probably going to back fewer euros, and you're going to compensate with that by backing all of these RPG. Anyway, that's a later problem. Yeah. But that is our number 5 for this week.
Yes. So it's the Story Master's Tales, Threatlord Town. Our number 4 is a game called Mariola's Mission, which is actually quite a unique, it's an interesting concept, I think, overall, because this is a 3D printed, print at home kind of family game with absolutely beautiful miniatures. But obviously, because it's, a print at home thing, you would have to have a 3D printer. However, they do have an option where you can just order the minis printed for you. I guess the biggest appeal of this is, well, one, the ability of being able to print the full game at home. That environmental impact is reduced. It becomes more arduous in terms of the process, but for someone who's kind of enjoys that creative aspect, or for people who are already printing 3D or using 3D printers and things like that, it's like, well, it actually adds to the whole thing. These miniatures are gorgeous. Like the actual the characters that they've created are so lovely. The one of the designers is a miniature painter as well.
Yes.
And the samples of what they look like once completed, if you have that level of skill, are just I'm sort of in love with them.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I am also excited to see more and more of this happening. 3D printers are becoming more common. We have one. We don't have a resin printer, unfortunately. No. We just have a printer that we use for inserts and things that we're not really painting. But it is really encouraging to see that people are getting more and more into this, and you're able to create this print and play genre is just going to continue to grow and grow, and we're going to end up with these full amazing board games that you can print at home. I think that's where we're headed,
and it's a lot more environmentally friendly.
And it's just and it obviously it avoids all of these shipping conundrums, and so it's really cool to see a campaign that gives you the options of printing it yourself or having it printed for you, and just being able to kind of mix and match based on what you've got at home.
In terms of the game itself, it sort of takes place, you're trying to go into this castle and take a group of adventurers into this castle. I believe it's 4 different adventurers.
And it's competitive.
And it's competitive. So each player gets their own adventurers, where it's not their own set of 4 adventurers. And so you're going to be rolling dice to, one, get your adventurer on the map. So each character has, I believe, asymmetric abilities and asymmetric requirements as well. So first to even get them on that player board, and then to actually move through to get to the castle. And so the person who wins is whoever manages to get all 4 of their adventurers to the castle first, because there's apparently a very heavy door in there that requires 4 people to open. But along the way, you're going to be essentially sabotaging each other.
And there are events that occur and get triggered as well that impact positively or negatively on all players.
So I think from a gameplay experience, I feel like it might be a bit too simple. It's very family friendly, and it kind of feels like it's more of a, it's really just a bit of a vehicle to justify the minis. The minis are really what's most beautiful and outstanding.
Yeah, for me, the mechanics are a little bit simplistic. The movement and battle type thing is not really my kind of genre anyway. But I did really think that this was kind of a cool campaign and one to check out.
So again, it's not something that we're backing, but cool one might be, if you're interested in that. And so that's our number 4, Mariola's Mission.
Now, our number 3 is a game coming out of Japan, which always piques my interest.
Yes.
And that game is called Ham Sandwich Shop. And this game is adorable.
So cute.
The components are pieces of a sandwich, and Ham Sandwich Shop refers to the chef, who is, of course, a hamster. Of course it is.
Yes.
Of course it is.
Yes.
And the way that this game is set up is you are creating a rondelle of sorts. So you know how I love a rondelle. And the rondelle is going to be made up of all of the sandwich components. So all of the ingredients that go into the sandwich are going to be included in there, like an egg or like some cheese, some lettuce and some tomato.
Yeah.
And what you're going to be doing, this is a game for 2 to 3 players, is you're going to be moving around the little hamster and selecting an ingredient to go into one of the 3 central sandwiches. At any point when you decide you want to finish one of those 3 sandwiches, the following must be true. You must be able to find everything that's in that sandwich on the rondelle in front of you. So it's kind of like you're trying to replicate a pattern that appears around the rondelle.
The recipe. Yeah.
The recipe, a pattern.
Yes.
That is replicated within a sandwich. And once you do that, you get to claim that sandwich. However, there is a little bit of a twist, because along the way, players get the opportunity to add hamster chefs from their hand into the sandwich.
The hamster hilariously throws the entire body onto the sandwich, as you would in a real chef kitchen. Yeah, commercial kitchen.
And these hamsters either are holding hidden ingredients that you can't see because you put them in face down, or they are open-armed, ready to consume one of the ingredients that is on the sandwich already, which means that you don't know if a sandwich is actually going to be missing a key ingredient or has an additional one thrown in that means that you may be able to claim a sandwich that nobody knows they can claim. So that is essentially the trick to the game, where it's a bit of just deception. It's a very light, family-friendly style game, but the componentry just looks really high quality. Like, I was watching the playthrough and they look really solid, like all of the ingredients. I love the flat hamster that jumps into the sandwich.
Dives on top of the sandwich. Yeah. And then there's this is an add-on, but a little extra wooden token of a hamster that's almost like a rocking hamster. I don't know if that has any
That's a
purpose.
Kickstarter exclusive. I don't know. Maybe it's the one that you can move around.
All right, yeah. But it doesn't need to rock.
No, but it's super cute.
I love it. Yeah. It's like, I wouldn't, like, if it can rock, well, why not? You know?
Yeah.
If
you're looking for, I guess, a light but kind of fun, funny game to play perhaps with children, I think for us it's probably a little too light, as much as every part of me wants to back this game.
It's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. We won't be backing this one, but check it out if you are looking for a lighter game experience and one that's very cute. That is our number 3, Ham Sandwich Shop. Our number 2 this episode is a game called Blazon.
Yes, in Blazon we are playing as Herald, which I didn't know this. You hear the term a lot, but the Herald was actually the group of people in charge of overseeing the rules of how you design coat of arms. So, on a shield, you have those illustrations that could represent, a family or a group of a particular, or an army or whatever it is. So that illustration, that's your what is it? Yeah, it's an arms. Yeah, coat of arms.
Family coat of arms.
Yeah, family crest. So the thing with this is, what you're trying to do is, as the herald, you're trying to become the king of arms. Essentially, have the most prestige, be the most famous person that can get the absolute best shield designed based on the very strict requirements of what things can and cannot be put together. So that's my thematic explanation, and that will make no sense unless you start talking about how it actually translates.
The game itself is quite abstract.
That's
I
what,
would say.
Yeah.
It is. Everyone is going to have a player board. This is a game for 1 to 4 players,
the form of a shield.
You'll have this quite large player board, which is in the shape of a shield, and you're going to be playing cards from your hand down into this tableau area, which is going to form a pattern of different shields. Those shields on each card have strict requirements in terms of where they can be placed and what they can be adjacent to. And what you're going to be doing is trying to build that out most effectively, because there's quite a clever way that you place cards down, in that when you place a card down, you need to be able to discard a certain number of cards from your hand as well, but they also have requirements. So in order to even play down, you need to be able to discard, but then when you're playing down, there's also strict rules on your shield. So it looks like it would be quite an interesting puzzle. But then the part that I like about it most, of course, is the race element.
I knew it, yeah. Like, I know what it's going to be, yeah.
There are a central set of objectives or milestones that the first person to hit those milestones based on the patterns they're achieving on their board, or I believe there's a bit of set collection in there, you are going to get more victory points. And from what I understand, this game plays relatively quickly in 20 to 30 minutes. So it seems like a really quick but interesting puzzle. For me, it's like quite a big game for like the amount, like for a 20-minute game and a game based on cards. It does take up quite a bit of table space. I was thinking about, I've only seen playthroughs with 2 players, but with 4, I feel like it would take up a lot of room.
Those individual, those individual shields, which I thought, the concept of it is quite cool, because that's where you're playing. But I think because the cards, I think they're kind of squarish type cards. It would take a lot of space.
Takes up quite a bit of space. We've also been playing a lot of games recently. It seems to be a little bit of a trend. Perhaps started by, I guess, the Calico puzzles and the wave of those games where it's all about the adjacencies and placement. Then we played Village Green, which is quite similar. The Whatnot Cabinet. There's been a lot of these games about like the strict rules of the card placement. And I'm like, I guess I'm not looking for another one. That's maybe why this is a little bit more suppressed.
And I think for me it's the abstract nature of it.
It's a little bit abstract for you. I will say I actually personally really like the art style by Ian O'Toole, who is amazing. And the most incredible thing about Ian is that every game that he designs seems so radically different that it could almost be a different design, like a different illustrator, different designer.
I mean, I do feel the sense of, I do feel like an aesthetic thread. But they individually are very
style
tailored to the game, which is very commendable.
And I like this one because it was quite minimalistic, but it was slightly too minimalistic for you.
It's a bit too I think because I like color, so I like things that are a little bit louder, and there's
I really like the box art. I'm really surprised there's not more of the box art in the game, because I would have liked that.
It does feel different. It's kind of like almost like a different aesthetic.
But anyway, if you are looking to back this one great thing about the campaign is it's only $17 shipping to Australia, which is amazing. So they've obviously negotiated some kind of great deal on that, which is fabulous. There are 2 choices between a regular edition and a deluxe edition. The regular is $35 US, the deluxe is $50 US. For the extra $15 US dollars, you're getting wooden components. For me, this game relies quite heavily on the card play. I wouldn't actually, if I was purchasing this game, if I was backing this campaign, I'd go in at the regular level. But because I'd go in at the regular level, that means that I'm kind of tempted to just wait and see with this one, perhaps pick it up at retail.
I was amused when you said I wouldn't. It's like, oh, wood. I would.
Oh my goodness.
Which is actually one of the things that I really enjoy, like from the components point of view, the wooden components of the achievement animal tokens, and even the little ink bottle and feather wooden nice. Tokens. Like those I'm quite I like those elements.
I think that's because for me this is an abstract puzzle, and so for me it's kind of stripped down to the abstract puzzle, so I don't need all that as much. I don't know what that rationale is, but there you go. So that is our number 2, Blazon.
And our number 1 for this episode is a game called Dom Pierre, which is based on Dom Pierre Perignon, which, if we shorten it, Dom Perignon, which is the champagne. So this is based on the actual, back in the, I believe, now it's going to test me. Why didn't I write this down? Is it 17th or 18th century? I'll correct it on the screen if I got that wrong, where the discovery of champagne kind of happened, of when the process of using these particular grapes and creating this wine that was quite sparkly and but quite sweet as well, which initially apparently the sparkly thing is like, oh, this is not good because it's not the way wine should be, and then it actually became the thing that, and the sweetness of it became the thing that made it, like, highlighted it, made it even better. And so this is about, obviously Dom Perignon, the champagne, the very famous champagne. That's sort of the relation to that. So in this game, we're all playing as managers of a maison de champagne. So the Champagne being the region where champagne comes from. And so what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to try to make sure that our brand or our name or our maison is the most prestigious of all of the ones in the region. So it's not just about money, it's actually more importantly about prestige.
Which is why prestige is instead of victory points in this game.
It's the main,
that is how you will win.
Yeah. Yes. And so, the things that we're going to be doing are going to be obviously getting those grapes, turning them into champagne, and then selling them, trading them, but also making sure that it's more about the fame or how well you're doing this, because that's what's going to be gaining the prestige of the quality of the wine that we're going to be producing.
And if you're a fan of Euros, this one probably caught your eye as well as it did us, because we looked at it and I thought, hey, that looks a lot like viticulture, as I'm sure a lot of people have. It's set in that kind of similar winemaking world, and the color tones are all very similar, but the game does seem to play quite differently. And I have sat through quite a lot of playthrough summaries now, because the campaign itself, I don't think did a very good job of selling the game mechanics, because the game mechanics,
how it plays.
Actually, for me, the most interesting part about this game, I love the setting, I love what it's based on, but then the mechanics is this player board action selection system where you've got 6 different actions that you can take that escalate as the game goes on. The more you take a particular type of action, the more it enables you to do that action in a more powerful way or more times, which is really intriguing. But my favorite thing about it is that you can only do each type of action 5 times. And once you've done it 5 times, the little marker to show you how many times you've taken that action comes off your player board and goes onto the main board and becomes the timer for the game to end. And I love that as a concept, because I can imagine in that last part of the game where you're thinking about what you want to do, and in order to take an action that you might want to do, it might trigger the end game, which means that you might not be able to get what you want to get done by the end of the game. And so I can just see how that would become really interesting, and also just being able to plan ahead for the number of times that you can do certain types of actions as well.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the thing that I'm most intrigued about is that personal player board where you've got all these action tokens, where there's also this tension between, as those tokens are going up, on one side it's got the power of that token or for that action, but on the other side it's got a cost. And so you're always going to, for things that cost you money, you're going to be paying, I believe, the lowest, so your marker that is at its lowest point, which would incentivize you to keep something, suppressed or lower down, but at the same time it means that action is going to be very weak. So, and again, it's going to be eventually a timer to end the game. So I think those tensions are going to make the game feel quite tight and exciting.
And I love engaging. Tension in a game. If you know our game reviews, you'll know that is something I love. A game that puts me under pressure. Apparently the money is quite tight in this game as well, which is, something that I love in a game where it's just excruciating to think about your moves, which kind of makes you think ahead. So I'm quite excited about this game and was really ready to back this game. Just about to hit back when I looked at the shipping cost to Australia. It is $60 to ship this game to Australia.
That's a whole game. That's a whole new game.
It is a whole new game, and it's just, one that's like, I don't know, 85 Australian dollars, which is a lot. So unfortunately, I will not be backing this game. I will hopefully be able to find a way to purchase this from a friendly local game store, because I am really intrigued by the game, and it is a theme that, you know, it's hard for us to find things that we like because of space and fantasy and everything else. So,
and it's like, you know, it's like a dry Euro. I would say Euro style. Technically, a dry Euro is only a game if it comes from the dry Euro province in France. Otherwise, it's just a sparkling worker placement. I put a lot of thought into that.
I just realized that is the joke.
That's my dad joke for all of you. Yes, it's a terrible one.
Okay, so before we started recording, Maggie said, I have a joke. And I said, well, don't tell me.
I said, I'm going to try and do a champagne joke and see if,
Oh, I'm glad I waited.
Did it surprise and delight you?
It surprised me. Yeah.
Well, it delighted me of, how it landed, not at all.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. That is our, I don't even know what number episode of Backchat, but it is kicking off Backchat for 2022. So hopefully you're still with us after
my terrible dad joke.
Terrible
jokes. Yes.
No, we're all here for Maggie's puns and jokes. Let's be honest. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. Hit like if you enjoyed this video, and we'll be back with more board game reviews really soon. But otherwise, bye for now.
Bye.